Hi class, Miss Pierre here, and I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed listening to your commercial ideas, and I cannot wait to see the final products. As the Art of Rhetoric video stated from last class, persuasive techniques are utilized in debates, speeches, literature, billboards, and advertisements. Today we will analyze sections of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. For homework, I expect you to analyze President Kennedy's historic speech on the nation's space effort. I gave you both of these speeches last class. These speeches utilize rhetorical strategies to contribute to the power and persuasiveness of a text. It's important that you can identify and analyze the rhetorical strategies used to convey a position and perspective. Before we begin, here's a picture of the rhetorical triangle that demonstrates the dynamic relationship among the three rhetorical appeals: logos, ethos, and pathos. As you can see, the triangle illustrates the relationship among the speaker, subject, and audience. As you begin working on your commercial or occasion, it's important to keep these three subjects in mind as you work. As I begin to analyze the speech, I expect you to highlight and annotate your paper as well. On this Word document, I have different examples of the three rhetorical appeals that are illustrated throughout his speech. In the beginning of Dr. Martin Luther King's speech, he utilizes ethos to demonstrate to the audience that they are fighting with other famous Americans such as the Founding Fathers and Abraham Lincoln. Since majority of Americans trust those famous men, they trust Dr. King and respect him. In the first paragraph it states, 50 years ago, a great American, in whose symbolic shadow we stand today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This shows that a president that every American knows about also fought for black equality. Abraham Lincoln is a president that many people look up to as a role model, and by using this, the audience feels like they are fighting for the same reason. Another example of ethos will be found in paragraph 3. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, will be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This shows that our founding fathers of our country wanted everyone to be equal, and since most Americans praise the Declaration of Independence, this makes Americans feel like it's a moral duty to enforce the statements written in the famous documents that made our fine country. Now we examine pathos that is illustrated throughout Dr. King's speech. If you scroll down to the 8th paragraph, you will see, now is the time to make real promise of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all God's children. His use of imagery allows the audience to visualize there is an end to this troubled time. He conveys pathos because the audience feels empowered to take action. Now is the time. Below this paragraph, you will see this excerpt. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizen rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. He conveys pathos by emphasizing how hard African Americans will work for their freedom. The audience feels determined to work to be granted their rights. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s impact of pathos throughout his speech has the effect of leaving the audience empowered, determined, and grateful. And finally, in the 3rd paragraph of his speech, we will find logos. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. Another example of logos found in his speech is this in paragraph 5. It is obvious today that America has deflated on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. His analogy utilizes logos as a form of reasoning. He reasons that everyone understands money and that they are able to understand what it feels like to be handed a bad check. Logos is utilized throughout Dr. King's speech. He illustrates to the audience that they have not been given equal opportunity, equal rights, and the respect that Caucasians receive. Even though they were promised from birth by our founding fathers that all men are created equal. The impact of logos throughout this speech makes African Americans support what he is saying. Now it's your turn. For homework, I expect you to analyze President Kennedy's speech and make sure you look at the rhetorical triangle for the dynamic between the audience, speaker, and subject. I expect you to come to class with this assignment completed. Everything we have learned so far will benefit in you in creating your commercial. See you tomorrow.